Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Poplar, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Yes, cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, Tokers and Tokettes, and lovers of liberty who don't particularly toke. We're not just about the Tokers and Tokettes, although that is our family, that is our background, that is our focus. We're here for you if you're for legalization, no matter why you're for legalization. We're going to continue on with the rant. The real reason pot is still illegal, but before we do, just a real quick announcement that we've got here from breaking news at the news desk. Pretend that we have a news desk, right? So you remember that I went up to Seattle on Tuesday and got to cover the grand opening of Cannabis City, Seattle's first pot shop, where Pete Holmes, the city attorney, had this to say.
But the most important takeaway for everyone here is that today marijuana sales became legal. And I'm here to personally exercise myself this new freedom.
Well, it's a good thing Pete Holmes got in on the first day, because today, Friday, 3 days later, Cannabis City is closed. Now, it's not a permanent thing. They will be reopening on July 21st, 10 days from now. But they're closed because they ran out of pot. There's no more weed left to sell. Now, a lot of people complained about this high price of pot, $20 a gram that it was going for. But he sold out of it, didn't he? And I don't know if he had 10 pounds to start with or whatever, but it's a lot of money at $20 a gram. We worked it out like $80,000, somewhere around there. So there seems to be plenty of demand for legal pot, but it sure is hard to tell when you've got such a limited supply. I mean, really, on an opening day for marijuana legalization, we ought to be talking about hundreds and thousands of dollars, or pounds, hundreds and thousands of pounds of product available. And we're talking about stores that had 3 strains available, 10 pounds product. In one of the stories I was researching, the 9 Point, I think it was saying, we're fielding 20, 30 calls a day, people looking for product, and you just can't get enough product. When did you ever think we'd live in a world where we just couldn't grow enough marijuana for everyone, right? Well, I guess we have always lived under prohibition, right? But the scarcity of marijuana was more like trying to find it, right? Now we know where it's at. It's at a pot shop. You just can't get it at the pot shop because they don't have enough licensed growers. They don't have enough crop yet. And this is what you get. And this is going to be a really interesting market to watch libertarians and progressives and other, people on different sides of the economic fence to try to parse out what's going on here. I can imagine there would be a libertarian argument, and folks on economic issues. It's interesting how people characterize my politics. I think I'm pretty liberal, but sometimes I get liberals who think I'm kind of conservative, and a lot of people think I'm a libertarian, and I am kind of libertarian. I'm libertarian at the level of humans who are equal. Like you and I are equal people, so we ought to be able to, whatever we do with each other or with other people's, nobody else's business. You know what? I'm socially libertarian. I have a problem with libertarianism when it gets into markets, though, because then we're talking about transactions between individuals or corporations or whatever that aren't equal, right? And so, yeah, everybody's free to choose, free markets, free minds and all that, right? But, Walmart's free choice is a lot more powerful than my free choice, right? And it's something I warn libertarians about, because it's like, we want to worry about the tyranny of government. I agree. But I also worry about the tyranny of the market, the tyranny of capitalists, right? The government never asked me to pee in a cup for a job. In fact, I worked for Idaho state government in the 90s, never had to take a pee test. It's always been capitalism that's asked me to pee in a cup. So I don't know if I'm libertarian, if I'm halfway in between, whatever. But this is going to be an interesting thing to discuss with people who are into that sort of stuff as they look and compare and contrast Colorado and Washington. And I feel that Washington has gone too far in the government trying to control all aspects of the market. As soon as Kleiman started coming in, Mark Kleiman from UCLA, the public policy professor, came in there and started spouting things about we're going to control the total amount of canopy that can be grown so that we'll have enough for the supply, that the demand we estimate, but not so much that there'll be diversion and blah, blah. No. No, we're talking about people growing a weed. What are we going to control? I'm reminded of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Life will find a way, right? We're talking about trying to control a weed, a government trying to pass a law to control the production of a weed. And it seems to me this is one area where we do need to let the market figure these kind of things out. And I think Colorado will make an interesting contrast in that I think Colorado's is a little more market-based and a little less tax-heavy. And then the real economic arguments begin when Oregon passes. Because Oregon's is as libertarian as any of the proposals so far. As far as there's no limit on how many licensees there are, where the money comes from, how many licenses you can have, whether you can have one or two or all three. It'll be as free and open as possible. And it'll be interesting to see what the result is. We got to take a break. We're going to be back in just a minute. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show. I'm Radical Russ, live from Roland J Studios.
Continue the conversation with Radical Russ online. Visit radicalruss.com and email radicalruss@gmail.com.
When we come back, we're going to continue the Radical Rant, the Nation magazine fantastic piece on the Community Anti-Drug Coalition of America and the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, and how they are just basically shills for the whims of Big Pharma. The pushers of OxyContin and other opioids don't want medical marijuana getting in the way. Tell you all about it when we come back.
.420 Radio, turning red states and blue states green.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while. Share.
Green Stream Radio with Grandma Cat, Tim, me, and On One from Olympia, Washington. Replaying Tuesdays at 11 Pacific on 4.
I don't use marijuana, but as a teacher of 36 years, I can tell you lots of other people use it. I don't believe in prohibition. I don't think it works. Prohibiting it hasn't stopped anybody from getting a hold of it. I would like to see it regulated so that maybe kids can't get a hold of it so easily. I know they get a hold of it now very easily. I support a new approach to marijuana. I support legalizing it. It's with us. It's not going to go away. And if we can get money through the taxation, we can also educate our kids about it. That's why I support it.
Radical Russ here in Ola J Studios. That's music from All That Remains. Some of the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour music tonight. Herb Thrasher live at 8 p.m. We've got music by Goat Whore, new music from Judas Priest, and more surprises. If you like your rock, if you like your metal and your marijuana, this is where you want to be. 8 p.m. Pacific time tonight, live from Ola J Studios, Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. All right, coming back here, we want to get back to my rant. Sorry for the abrupt cut there. Back to my rant, though. Before I do, though, I keep finding these other things to talk about before I get back to the rant. Just a quick thing on a comment in our chat room. Canny, who's out there in Colorado, makes a point, quote, all the bud is going to legal, medical gets the leftovers. So I imagine what's meant here is, in the Colorado system, they've got a medical side and a recreational side. Now, I don't know that that's possible, because the way I understood that it worked is they have an inventory of medical plants that they track from seed to sale. And they grow those medical plants, they harvest those plants, they harvest the buds off of those, and they stay on the medical side. And then on the recreational side, they got the recreational plants, they grow those, they harvest the buds off those, and those are sold on the recreational side. So I don't see how medical buds are ending up on the recreational side unless they're violating that seed to sale inventory tracking system. Unless we're just talking about the initial transfer, right? Because when the pot shops first opened in Colorado in January, there were no licensed growers yet, because it all started on January. So the pot shops, the rec side, were given a one-time transfer. They could transfer their medical, some of their inventory from medical over to the recreational side. So I'm wondering if that's what we're talking about it. But Canny is saying, no, there's skimpy picking at medical places. Now, I wonder if what this is a shift of the growers and producers that are shifting toward recreational because the prices are higher and there's more profit margin to be made there. Regardless of how it's happening, it's another example of why separating cannabis consumers into the sick and the healthy sometimes doesn't do us any favors. The medical side wants to say, hey, it's a medicine, it shouldn't be taxed. It shouldn't be taxed. It's a medicine. And I understand that argument, have some respect for it. But then on the other side, recreational keeps getting sold with all the tax money we'll raise for schools, we'll have all this tax money, we'll tax and regulate it. And then we end up with these 25 times 3 taxes in Washington and a 15 and a 10 in Colorado. That seems to be too far on the other side of things for me. So, we separate the recreational and the medical. Medical wants to have a special benefit of not being taxed. But part of what's going on is there ends up being as overtaxing of recreational, and this idea that the recreational prices themselves should just be higher. And that has the unintended consequence then of driving the quality of the market toward where it can make profit, the recreational side, and then depriving the medical side of what it needs. And then the other argument I also understand is the one about the need for like CBD strains or different strains that work for particular medical conditions that aren't necessarily the get you really high or couch locked strains. And so the medical side ends up without more production of that they need, because these growers say, well, I can grow Charlotte's Web, or I can grow this indica that's, really good for pain, but doesn't get you high or whatever. And there's a few people that'll buy that at the medical place where it's lower taxed and lower price profit margins. I could dedicate some plants for that out of the kindness of my heart. Or I could grow a whole bunch of this knock you on your ass sativa for the recreational side, where it's taxed higher and the prices themselves are higher and the consumers are willing to pay more, and they can pay more because they're not patients, they're not indigent, they're not, disabled and unable to work. They're recreational, they got jobs, they got money to burn. Ooh, 20 a gram, 25 a gram, whatever. All right. Why wouldn't the grower want to grow toward that side? So this is where, we're going to have to figure out, is this distinction of medical and recreational going to do more harm than good? I don't know. I'm asking. Phone number is 971-533-7111 if you've got an opinion on this. But anyway, I just wanted to make a mention of that because I thought for sure that the Colorado system was pretty demarked between medical and recreational. I couldn't see a bud slipping over from medical to recreational, but driving the market toward recreational and driving the producers that way, I think might explain that. All right, let me get back to this Reason article, or not Reason, the Nation article. The other side. That's the other wonderful thing about this movement, about the marijuana legalization movement. On the one hand, I'll end up reading these exposés from Reason magazine or Forbes, these right-wing, right-wing's exactly accurate, but libertarian-leaning type of magazines and thinkers. And then today I'm reading from The Nation, which is the left side, progressive side thinkers. So both, it seems like the edge sides of both wings, if you will, the far left lefties and the far right righties, get it. It's this middle, this mushy middle of moderate Democrats and, well, there's no such thing as a moderate Republican anymore, but, non-batshit crazy Tea Party Republicans, I guess. They don't quite get it yet. They're still trying to steer the ship. We did that story earlier today. Hillary Clinton being counseled, Bill Clinton's kind of testing the waters for, well, I think the state should be allowed to try to legalize marijuana. Let's see where that goes. He's kind of floating the trial balloon for, like, let's see if people freak out. Nobody's going to freak out. These politicians are so timid on this issue. They can't see the ripe political opportunity just staring them in the face. And I'm thinking the Republicans are going to see it pretty soon. Because the Republicans, I trust their craven opportunism. I trust that in them. And that there's going to be enough of them, younger, maybe in more Hispanic districts, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, some of these guys that are eventually going to realize that being homophobic, anti-pot, anti-immigrant isn't going to win many elections going forward. And they're going to find a way, and it's going to be really easy for them to tack the marijuana legalization into their own conservative worldview of limited government, leave the states alone, and states' rights, I've told you this many times on the show, and that I just counsel Democrats just quit. Hillary Clinton, if you're out there, and then Hillary is supposedly the foregone conclusion for the 2016 nomination, but she was foregone conclusion for 2008 too. So who knows what happens, right? But let's just see. If she can come around on this. I don't know. I don't see Hillary Clinton coming around on this very well. She's such a follower in so many ways. I don't see it happening, but it is becoming an issue that they're not going to be able to run from. Chris Christie, who's this supposedly the next big, pardon the pun, Republican, who's a possible 2016 nominee, even after this Bridgegate thing, still a possible nominee. He's already staked out the position of no way, no how, legalization ain't going to happen on my watch, not as I'm governor of New Jersey. Hell no. He's already staked out the fight the potheads position. So, if it ends up him versus Hillary Clinton, what does it gain her to be super anti-pot? I think this is a huge political miscalculation on Chris Christie's fault. I think he doesn't understand how this issue plays, and that, there's 55 electoral votes in California that are pretty fond of their medical marijuana. There's, 7 in Oregon, another 9 or 10 in Washington. There's a lot of states. There's like 42 or 43% of the electoral votes now exist in states that have medical marijuana. The issue's polling over 80% in every age group. And among millennials, it's in the 90s, 95s. It's ridiculous. All right, everybody, it's 4:20 on a Friday, but that doesn't mean my work is done. I still have to be here another 40 minutes. While I am, we will finish this rant on the real reason pot is still illegal. I promise. You know how we weed people are, man. We get sidetracked sometimes. Oh, it's a beautiful summer day in Portland, Oregon. We'll be right back.
420 Radio. Tune in, turn on, get highly educated. The International Cannabis Business Conference takes place September 13th and 14th at the Portland Ballroom in the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon. Featured speakers include Oregon Senator Floyd Przansky, U.S. Congressman Earl Blumenauer, Daily Dish blogger Andrew Sullivan, author Doug Fine, and Harborside CEO Steve D'Angelo. To learn more, visit our website at international.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, folks, it's time for our visit with Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour and America's #1 sports prognosticator. How you doing, Herb?
Dude, I'm doing good, man, and I did wake up with a little smile on my face this morning knowing that I called that one, man. That one felt good.
Yeah, if you don't know, LeBron James has decided in his free agency he's leaving the Miami Heat and going back home to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who he abandoned 4 years ago. And what was it, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? You were saying that's what was going to...
It was somewhere, yeah, in that vicinity.
And Herb was saying that's what's going to happen. He's going to go back. He's going to be welcome as a hero. He'll go get a championship because he'll have all these great first-round draft picks that they've gotten in those 4 years that they sucked.
That's it, man. That's what told me. That's why I just kept seeing. And I was seeing the Miami Heat. They're just playing a little bit stagnant during the season, and he's all hush hush, and it was just things were just pointing that way. And then you knew when Johnny Manziel was drafted by Cleveland. That was just the cement for me, because to him, that's telling him that Cleveland is about to be the city. And so he feels like he would be that exclamation point on the deal. He's already taken pictures with Johnny Manziel, and so he's had a huge plan. And congrats to them. Congrats to Cleveland fans and you guys up there in the Northeast. Congrats, milk it. Go ahead and just enjoy it. There's no sense in hating on this stuff.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. It's like LeBron had to destroy the Cavs to make them better.
Kinda, in a lot of ways, I mean, that's just kind of what he did, man. And maybe time will tell, but looking back on it, it looks pretty good right now. So looking forward to getting back to the mic tonight on Herb Thrasher Flower Hour at 8 p.m. right here on 420radio.org. Had a great time in Santa Rosa, California a few weeks ago for the High Times Cannabis Cup. You guys have been seeing all kinds of interviews that we've done and pictures and hearing all the stories, and it's just been a great time. And we'll recap a little bit of that tonight. I know you guys are pretty much tired of it, and we've moved on. But we'll look at some guests haven't seen it, so we'll catch up on that. Talk about the Northwest String Summit next week. I go to this event every year. It's a bluegrass festival here in Portland, Oregon. Amazing bands are there every year, and it's 4 days this year. And looking forward to telling you guys about that. We'll look at some of the bands playing tonight. 710. Yesterday was 710. Yeah. Well, tonight, it's 710 again. We're going to keep that going. Ronnie James Dio had a birthday. Give him a few words. Man, what's all kinds of brand new releases. We got Juice Priest, we got Goat Whore, we got a brand new band from Colorado, In the Whale, to look at. And speaking of Colorado, our band today for Rockin' Friday is the Motet, with the self-titled album, The Motet, and this tune that we're going to play today is called 1, 2, 3. And I'm really excited about this band because I just found them yesterday. Amazing. Yesterday I didn't even have a tune, and all of a sudden I'm playing the motet because I'm realizing that I'm going to see them this Saturday night at the Northwest String Summit. And this is a bluegrass festival, but the motet is different, and so they've thrown a curveball. And this is true funk, guys. This is how we totally remember it. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Kool and the Gang, all these great bands that we know of. We hear the Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink right here on 420radio.org playing a lot of these great funky tunes. Well, the motet is from this vibe, and they have a 7th studio album that is self-titled The Motet. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about them. I don't know much about them, but I know there's some funky, ableistic dudes, and I'm just real excited to play these guys to you. You guys join us tonight, 8 p.m., Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, and we're going to rock and roll and have a great time. You guys have a great weekend, and Russ, we'll see you next week. Join us tonight for some funk and thrash and metal, and turn it up right now for some funk. The Motet, 1, 2, 3.
It's no secret. Look at the sky. We got it. We're gonna show you why. Everybody say 1, 2, 3. Everybody, you and me. We're soaking up the stuff from the sun, from the sun, from the sun. It goes away. The last ray on our face. We're like the night until the world is fun. Like the night until it's fun. 1, 2, 3. Everybody, you and me. It goes away, the last ray on our face. We'll let the night until the world is can feel it from the downbeat. All those hands up in the air, staring deeply in the darkness of their eyes, and pretty, pretty everywhere. Nightlight turns into daylight. Clouds are thick and sky is wide. Celebrating as we put this day to rest. Turning miles inside. Everybody say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Everybody, you and me. You and me. The stuff from the sun. Soaking up the love from the sun. It goes away. The last ray on our face. We light the night until the world is fun. Light the night, light the night. 1, 2, 3. Everybody, you and me. We're soaking up the stuff from the sun.
420 Radio, the world's voice of marijuana legalization. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio. The Marijuana Business Association, or MJBA, are proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show. It is the mission of the MJBA to establish integrity and legitimacy, create common market standards, provide market intelligence, and develop best ethical business practices for participants in the emerging legal marijuana industry, including commercial hemp, medical marijuana, and recreational marijuana for adults. Learn more about the Marijuana Business Association and visit mjba.net to join today. That's mjba.net. The Jody Emery Show, replaying Fridays at 1 Pacific on 420radio.org. At Royal Queen Seeds, we've got premium feminized cannabis seeds, including auto-flowering varieties for the medical cannabis user. We've got bulk shipments available and new CBD oil. Plus, we accept payment in Visa, MasterCard, and Bitcoin, as well as other methods. Check out our website at royalqueenseeds.com for more information. We are located in the Netherlands, and we have online grow experts ready to help you now at royalqueenseeds.com.
Back, everybody. 33 after the hour. That's music from Disenchanter. That's Rainbows. I'm Radical Russ, and we're coming back to our rant that we began in the first hour. The real reason pot is still illegal, and if you're joining us late, the basic setup here is that Pat Kennedy and the Project Sam people appearing at a convention, the annual convention of the Community Anti-Drug Coalition of America, CADCA, was sponsored by Purdue Pharmaceuticals, the manufacturer of OxyContin. We also learned that the United States consumes 84% of the entire world's supply of oxycodone and almost 100% of hydrocodone. That's Vicodin. So CADCA and Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, turns out, derive a significant portion of their budget from opioid manufacturers and other pharmaceutical companies. Now, Partnership for Drug-Free Kids used to be the Partnership at drugfree.org, and then became the Partnership, it was originally Partnership for Drug-Free America, then it was the Partnership at drugfree.org. Now it's the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids. I guess that's the order. Anyway, Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, their largest donors are Purdue Pharmaceuticals, the manufacturer of OxyContin, and Abbott Laboratories, the maker of Vicodin. CADCA also is sponsored by Purdue Pharmaceuticals, as well as Alkermes. Now, we told you about Alkermes a few months ago, back in February it was. They are the maker of the powerful new painkiller called Zohydro. Yeah, Zohydro. Remember the Super Vicodin? The one that's got 50 milligrams of hydrocodone in it, whereas the largest dose that you can get in a Vicodin is 10. And how there were all these senators and governors and people that were rising up against this, saying, my God, we've already got major opioid dependence issues in this country. We're using 84% of the world's OxyContin and 99% of the world's hydrocodone. And what, we need another pain pill? One that could be easily abused, and one for whom a person that has no opioid tolerance, if they accidentally ingested it, could kill them easily. So yeah, CADCA and Partnership getting a lot of their money from these drug manufacturers. Now that in and of itself might not be troublesome. Got to get your money somewhere, right? But is there a quid pro quo involved? Is there a reason why these big pharmaceutical companies want to be so entrenched and embedded within CADCA and Partnership for Drug-Free Kids budgets? Well, let's just take a look. Back in February, we told you that CADCA was having its annual convention. About 2,000 people showed up. Pat Kennedy is up there, an opioid abuser. Guy who was addicted to OxyContin is up there speaking about the dangers of marijuana, the dangers of medical marijuana, dangers of legalization. Big marijuana is going to be like big tobacco. Joe Campbell's going to come down and take your kids. And that event was sponsored by Purdue Pharmaceuticals. That same month in February, there were 42 drug prevention groups that signed on to a letter that was sent to the FDA protesting the FDA's approval of Zohydro. Now remember, when the FDA approved Zohydro, their own advisory board voted 11-2 to not approve this drug. They got overruled. Because these big companies want to sell another drug, right? 42 groups signed on to protest the FDA approving Zohydro. Guess who didn't? Yeah, of those 42 groups, CADCA and the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, nowhere to be found. CADCA and the Partnership, as The Nation reports, have also failed to call for action on current bills in Congress to crack down aggressively on painkillers, including the Stop Oxy Abuse Act, which would, in keeping with the suggestion of the doctors' advocates who petitioned the FDA, which would allow OxyContin to be prescribed only for severe pain. The two anti-drug groups have not signed on to support the Safe Prescribing Act, which would move hydrocodone products like Vicodin and Lortab from Schedule 3 to Schedule 2, making the product more difficult to prescribe. Nor, for that matter, have they endorsed any of the bills introduced by Representative Hal Rogers or Senator Joe Manchin to block the approval of new, stronger painkiller drugs such as Zohydro. So it's telling by their lack of action, CADCA, anti-drug coalitions, Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, when one of the biggest problems we've got is prescription drug overdoses and prescription drug addiction to OxyContin and hydrocodone, noticeably not signing on to the bills that would address these epidemics in oxycodone and hydrocodone. Sounds like Alkermes and Purdue and Abbott are certainly getting their money's worth. Prescription drug manufacturers like Purdue Pharma have made $27 billion in revenues in OxyContin alone since 1996. $27 billion on just OxyContin. And keep in mind that OxyContin is a Schedule 2. You can't just go and make as much OxyContin as you want to make and start selling it. You have to go through the FDA's Office of, Regulatory, I can't even remember what it was called. Diversion Control or something like that. Office of Diversion Control. But basically, what it is it's an arm of the DEA that's in charge of approving the quota for how much OxyContin you can manufacture in your factory. In 1996, it was like 8.3 tons of OxyContin for the year. That was the quota. That's how much you're allowed to make nationwide, right? And that was divided among all the people making it, right? So you're allowed to make 8.3 tons, right? In the last quota year, it was like 150 tons, 157 tons, something like that. It's like a 1,600% increase. That just happens to coincide with the timeline of legal medical marijuana. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fascinating? 1996, medical marijuana is legal in California. 1996, we start increasing how much OxyContin they're able to produce and push. So yeah, CADCA and drug-free kids, though, they don't seem to see that as a problem. They don't seem to see that as an issue. Anything they really need to get that worked up about. And a lot of this, of course, has to do with the fact that not only are these pharma corporations standing to benefit from opposing medical marijuana, opposing marijuana legalization, because, of course, that's a competitor with their product. Dr. Amanda Ryman and the Berkeley Patients Group did a survey where they talked to the patients there in California, And they found that like 2/3 of them were able to severely cut down or completely eliminate the opioid painkillers they were using. They found that the ones that still had to use opioid painkillers, that the cannabis had a synergistic effect, that it helped the opioid painkiller work better, so that even when they had to still use Vicodin, they didn't have to use one every 2 hours or every 4 hours. They could take one a day and then smoke the rest of the day, and they were fine. Well, we can't have that if we're pumping out 150 tons of this stuff. Somebody's got to buy these $40 a pill addictive synthetic heroines. They don't want to see medical marijuana gain even greater acceptance and start cutting into that. Of course not. But then we also find that the people involved in these anti-drug groups have their toes in other pools, making their money from the prohibition of marijuana. The Nation magazine, again, this is the real reason pot is still illegal, talks about Project Sam organizing opposition in Alaska to their legalization initiative. And we point out that so many of these people involved in Project Sam have all these interesting ties. We already talked about Kennedy's addiction to OxyContin. Now, in the Alaska campaign, the MPP guys up there ran some... had some protesters out there that paraded a giant check with the number $9,015. That's the campaign money that Kennedy received from the liquor lobby while he was in office, right? So he took money from booze. He was fine with that. Ben Court, who's a Project Sam spokesperson, Ben Court leads a drug treatment program in Aurora, Colorado. So it benefits him if people are punished, if people are arrested, if people are forced by a judge in a drug court to have to go to a drug treatment program in Aurora, Colorado. Why would he want to see those laws change? Dr. Stuart Gitlow, president of the American Society of Addiction Medicine, sits on Project Sam's board of directors and frequently speaks out against medical marijuana. But what he hasn't disclosed when he's on headline news and Southern California public radio and local media outlets is that he is also the medical director for Orexo. That's a pharmaceutical company that recently produced a new drug called Zubsolv. This product is an opioid substitute along the lines of Suboxone that, while designed to treat opioid addiction, is often abused for recreational purposes. So, the guy who's the president of the American Society of Addiction Medicine, whose Project Sam is fighting against medical marijuana, fighting against marijuana legalization, is the medical director for a company that makes a drug that treats opioid addiction, but is also abused itself. Got his own drug to push. Oh, and then, of course, let's not forget Peter Benzinger. Peter Benzinger is a former DEA administrator, and Robert DuPont, the former White House drug czar, they are partners in a consulting firm that specializes in workplace piss testing. They don't want to see marijuana get legal and give people a politically valid excuse for fighting against their oppression. They want to see that. They, of course, work with Project Sam. So guys that sell drug testing, guys that sell other drugs, guys that sell rehab, all involved with these anti-marijuana groups and that are all being funded by Big Pharma opioid pushers. Folks, it's not so much a war on drugs as it is a war between drugs. That's what it is. We're going to wrap up this rant here in just a second. We're going to take a break, come back and get our final segment in for this wonderful, wonderful summer week.
Don't touch that dial. We're right back to Radical Russ in just a few minutes. Hey, does anybody really have a dial anymore? You're listening to The Russ Belville Show.
They're selling out of legal marijuana in Seattle, but in Vancouver, Washington, just north of us, they've still got some legal weed for sale. One store opened on Wednesday, the other store opened today. We're going to give you the locals' eye view on which of those stores you should be shopping at and which one you should be boycotting. Stick around. around.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with our Shoutcast stream for all internet-enabled media players. Go to rad-r.us/420shout or just click the Shoutcast icon below the live radio feed at 420radio.org. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The Law Office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact Normal at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana.
Welcome back, everybody. Music from Metallica, Hit the Lights, from the first Metal Massacre. It's Friday. I've had some vape. Want to welcome aboard to 420 Radio and the Russ Belville Show, our new sponsor, Tie Stick Vaporizer Pens. We've just got to get the final details worked out, but you'll be hearing advertisement from Tie Stick and more of me showing them off. Love these things. Pre-filled cartridge with oil in there. You can see it running, all right? Running down a little cartridge. And, like sleek design, typical kind of battery thing. And it pulls a really big cloud. Oh, my goodness. So we'll tell you more about that, but you can check out tsvape.com, I think is their website. Tie Stick Vapes. And they've got some big news that might be a game changer. Will be a game changer in the extraction world. I can't tell you much more about it, but we're just excited to have another sponsor here on the Russ Belville Show, and things are just getting bigger and better as we move on through 2014. A couple of housekeeping notes. Next weekend, I will be at the Meet the Experts 3, Bobby Platshorn's third installment of basically a Florida marijuana conference. I'm leaving on next Thursday, so there won't be a live show on Thursday. We'll have some replays for you. I'm flying during that time. Friday, I will be live from Miami, so we will bring you another Miami-themed show. Saturday, we'll get the coverage of Meet the Experts 3. Monday, we'll have some of that coverage for you on the Russ Belville Show. Tuesday of next week, flying back, won't make it in time to do the live show. So again, we'll have more coverage of the Meet the Experts conference. Then on Friday, the 25th, 2 Fridays away, flying to Michigan for the High Times Cannabis Cup. We'll be live from Flint, Michigan on Friday, the 25th. And then moving on to Saturday and Sunday, that's the Cannabis Cup. And the following week, the last week of July, we will bring you the footage from that. That following Monday, I will be off again because I'm flying. So I guess basically the long and short of it is there'll be a few days off here and there as I will be in airports and airplanes. So thank you for your understanding and your support. And if you want to get in here, get in on the bandwagon of 420 Radio, you can become a VIP member. You can help support 420 Radio and the Russ Belville Show. Keep us on the air. Keep all of this content free for the people that want to listen to it. You can go to 420radio.org, look at the top menu. Should find the Donate VIP Membership button. If you can, do. And your money will be well spent on flights and hotels and taxis and bandwidth and electricity and meals and all the things it takes to keep doing this. And it's just my pleasure and my honor to be able to be doing this for you. All right, so closing things out here on today's show, moving into the weekend, really looking forward to this weekend. One weekend I get to have home before heading out. Last night went out with Ganja John and another friend to see the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes movie. Remarkable. I give it 2 thumbs way up, 5 stars, and 4 bags of popcorn. Great, great, great movie. I'm sure maybe thinking twice about it, I'll find things to nitpick, but I thought the story moved well, and to be able to pull off emotional connection with CGI apes was remarkable. So I urge y'all to check that out if you're into movies. It's worth seeing. This is one of those ones that's worth, going to the theater and seeing it. So Dawn of the Planet Apes. Great show. Liked it. Canny says it don't look good. It looks good. It's really good. I like it. Hey, I mentioned Vancouver, Washington, the Couve, as we call it here in Portland, Oregon. Understand that right here in Portland, we are nestled against the Oregon-Washington border, which is the Columbia River. And we go right across the Columbia River. We got 2 different bridges to do it. And you're in Vancouver, Washington, where there are now 2 pot shops open. There are more pot shops open in Vancouver than in Seattle. And that was even when it was open. If you didn't hear earlier, the pot shop in Seattle is closed temporarily for 10 days because they're out of weed. Well, the pot shops in Vancouver apparently still have weed, but I want to encourage all my listeners, especially all my local fans here in Portland, if you're going to buy legal pot, buy it from New Vansterdam, the one that opened today. And the reason why, first of all, the guy running the New Vansterdam is named Buds. B-U-D-Z. It's his real last name, Buds. So, right there, that should be case closed. You're going to go buy legal weed in the Couve, go to Mr. Buds, right? But the real nail in the coffin is this story from the New York Times. It's dated July 6th from Vancouver, Washington. Let me just read you the first 3 paragraphs. John Larson, a recently retired high school science and math teacher, hopes to be in the first wave of legal recreational marijuana salespeople opening shop here in Washington state this week. Mr. Larson, age 67, who was talked into the venture by his children, said he had never tried marijuana and, in fact, voted against legalizing it in 2012. But as a business idea, well, that's different. Quote, "If people were dumb enough to vote it in, I'm all for it," he said over a cup of coffee near his shop here in southern Washington, just across the Columbia River from Portland, Oregon. "There's a demand and I have a product," end quote. The name of his shop in Vancouver, Washington is called Main Street Marijuana. It opened on Wednesday, and of course it had the requisite, first opening, huge media presence. The Portland news stations were all there, line running out the block, and, people buying, weed for $33 a gram with tax once you added all the tax in. I say let's not give this guy any more of the recreational pot money. Let's go to New Vansterdam and Mr. Buds. people were dumb enough to vote it in. Now, if the guy had voted against 502 and then went ahead, no, you know what? Screw it. You voted against 502, you shouldn't be able to get a license. That should be part of the application process. You voted against it, you don't get a profit from it. You tried, by your vote, to keep me a criminal, Mr. Larson. That doesn't make me much want to go buy overpriced weed in your Vancouver store. And to say that the people who voted for it, 55% of the state, by the way, that the people that voted for it were dumb, and then you want them to be your customers? Well, folks, we shouldn't. And I know it's probably pissing in the wind at this point because, with the scarcity of legal weed, the novelty, he's probably going to have plenty of business, but not if I can help it. That's inexcusable. And this is one of the things about legalization, right? At least in the black market world, everyone you were dealing with, growers and dealers, were weed people. Every now and then you found the guy that didn't smoke weed but sold it, right? But most of the people you're dealing with smoked weed and loved weed. And that's part of why they were in the business of getting it to you is, part of that brotherhood, that kinship of being weed smokers. But now under legality, we're getting this flood of people who are just in it for money. They don't care if it's weed or rutabagas or nuclear fuel. They could care less. Can I make money on it? And they don't know anything about the culture. They don't know anything about the movement, the struggle, the people who've gone to prison, the people who've died to make this business possible. That's just huge, huge errors. If they're dumb enough to vote it in. That's in the freaking New York Times, dude. I don't want those kind of people in the legal marijuana business. And this is where, as cannabis consumers, that's where the legalization fight goes now. I often was quizzed when I worked for NORML, once it's legal, what you gonna do? What you gonna do then once it's legal? Well, this is what you do. You fight to make it more legal. You fight to end the stigma and the discrimination. You fight to make it so that we have equality with beer drinkers and cigar smokers. I'm willing to concede that weed is smelly like a cigar. I'm willing to concede that weed alters your perceptions like a beer. Not as much, not as badly, but same category. So if we figured out how to deal with stinky, smelly, aromatic things, and we figured out how to deal with intoxicating things, and we've got something that's both of those things, we should be able to deal with it. And we shouldn't be discriminated against. Anywhere someone can smoke a cigar, I should be able to smoke weed. Anywhere somebody can drink a beer, I should be able to smoke weed. Or at least vaporize. Hey, that's all the time we got.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Herb Thrasher's interview with Danny Danko is up next on the replay. Live Flower Hour coming up tonight at 8 p.m. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.